growing your business. Call Lighthouse CPAs 850-785-5254.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
He has one man to beat. He beat him. Jar, Quez, Hunter, touchdown Auburn.
Kickoff on the Plains is coming.
15-10, 5 to the end zone. Touchdown, Peyton Thorne.
Auburn football returns August 31st.
The kick is on the way. The season is underway.
Only on your home for the Tigers.
Auburn fans, we're bringing you every single game this season on the exclusive home for the Auburn Tigers on the Gulf Coast. ESPN, Northwest Florida, War Eagle.
The Atlanta Braves are battling back in the division and keeping their sights set on the playoffs as the season heats up.
Bounce up the middle, might get through. It does. Base hit. Braves win. Austin Riley comes through with the winner.
Tonight, Austin Riley and the Braves ramp up for another series against the Milwaukee Brewers, live from Truist Park in Atlanta.
Braves coverage begins following the Afternoon Underdogs at 6. First pitch, 6:20. Your home for the Braves, ESPN, Northwest Florida.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
And that's out of the ballpark.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Get ready.
Deep center field and heading for the horizon.
Sports Talk Radio will never be the same.
Onion pickles, onions, pickles.
The Afternoon Underdogs
Way back and gone.
on ESPN.
Northwest Florida.
What does it do? You are now in the doghouse riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick for a Tuesday filled with tangents. When I get done going over my college football playoff bracket, I expect some calls today. My goodness, man. I'm looking at this thing and you know, it's like, all right, well, you know, difficulty of schedule is going to be one of those things. The teams who certain teams lost to is going to be one of those things. I haven't even picked out my G5 champion. I just stuck them at 12.
Did you look at Notre Dame and their schedule?
See, that's the thing, though, also, is like, because we haven't done Notre Dame yet, right? And so I've got that actually right here on this little pink sticky pad. I've got Notre Dame, Oregon State, Washington State, and then a few of the top, the top G5 schools. We've got to go over some of those schedules too, right? Do
you think, like, Oregon State and Washington State have a legit chance of making the playoff this year?
No, I don't, but just to give them the benefit of the doubt of I think that playing that Mountain West schedule, as if I were them, I would have, and it would have been extremely tough, but I would not have locked in with the Mountain West as like, we're going to be doing this on a year-to-year basis until we figure out what conference or what in the world we're doing next. I would have tried to go in an independent fashion until I figure out what's next. I would honestly be reaching out to the Big 12 and be like, please let us in, like, let us figure out something to get us in there. But no, I don't think if you're playing a Mountain West schedule, unless you have, I mean, even if you have to go undefeated. And even then, what we saw last year, it's tough.
What about like, we talked about it maybe before, like an undefeated Liberty or something like that? What do you think there?
Undefeated Liberty to me is squat this year because of the schedule that they have. You have no Power 5 teams on your schedule. I don't care if you go undefeated. There's plenty of teams in D2 going undefeated. I ain't going to invite them up here to play with the big dogs. Like, this is the first year of the college football playoff at 12 teams. We're going to be moving to 14 shortly. A precedent has to be set. So just because you got a beautiful 12-0 beside you, don't mean jack diddly to me.
Well, and like to an extent, like the committee kind of proved that last year, right? And I know, and I'm not even doing it as like a shot at Florida State, more of just like
12-0 on Max for that.
Yeah, 12-0 doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? At this point, like they've already set that precedent to an extent.
And I feel bad because I got Florida State going 10-2 and not making the playoff, man.
And then Cincinnati 2 years ago went undefeated.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
But it did matter, though.
Well,
right?
No, they had to go undefeated basically 2 years, in a row to make it.
Which makes sense, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, build that brand. But TCU got the benefit of the doubt.
They were a Big 12 team that time. So
no, 100%. 100%. I was thinking about this, though. If Kansas State had gotten into the playoff over TCU because they won the Big 12 title game, do you think that the title game, let's say that Kansas State moves on and is taking on Georgia in the title game. They somehow upset Michigan. Do you think that the score is as outrageous?
Look what Bama did to K-State.
Very true.
I mean, they were 45-3 or something like that.
It was
45-10.
Well, and also, kudos to Bama in that game though, because you had a lot of highly touted draft picks who stayed in and played that game.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that anybody.
Some
would
say
lose.
that those New York 6 games don't necessarily matter. I would beg to differ.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, they would definitely win 65-7 again. But what Bama did to K-State and what Georgia did to TCU were so very similar. And obviously TCU and K-State were very similarly matched teams. It's hard for me to believe it wouldn't. I mean, it would have been a blowout. Would it have been 65? If it's 58-10, is that any better, really?
You're right, 100%. And I guess what I'm getting at is, would the clout have been different? Like, you know what I mean? As the conversation surrounding, like, oh, well, Kansas State didn't belong to be there, as they were saying about TCU. After, it's like, hello, they beat Michigan, though. Like, that's how this thing works, is you get put into a situation, then you got to win your game. It would have been one thing had Michigan blown out TCU, in my opinion. And again, I do not want our listeners to forget the opinion that I had about last year, where I don't know how you leave an SEC champion out, but I don't know how you leave an undefeated team out. And again, with all of the injuries, all of that taken into account, that's fine. But for me, when you do something at the Power 5 level, I'm not going to Liberty here. But when you go undefeated and you do your job, you should get rewarded for doing your job. But that's neither here nor there, because I am not the committee, right? So with that being said, I should have gave these teams some more losses when we were doing our predictions, man, because, and I'm sitting here looking at my 2023 SEC predictions. Almost all of them are within one game outside of 2 teams. Those 2 teams?
Missouri and Arkansas?
Vanderbilt. Actually.
Okay.
Vanderbilt. I gave Vanderbilt
a little too much credit.
Wait, was it too much credit, or did I give them
gave like 2 wins and they got like 5?
Yeah, I had them going 4-8 and they went 2-10. So I gave Vanderbilt too much credit, and I think I've done that with all of the teams when it comes to their non-conference schedule, especially when they're playing lower tier schools, if you will. So that is just a little forewarning for today's show. This is all about SEC football, college football in general. But yeah, we're going to take a little hiatus at 420 because it's been so long without Max, which I found out a little bit more, and I'm not going to share any of the details, but it's not just straight vacation while Max is up there in Chicago. So, but he's still in Chi-Town. I thought he was back for some reason, so I was like, yeah, we got to get back to your minute with Max. I texted him. I was like, you back? He's like, no, I'm still in Chi, but I'll call in today. So I was like, all right, you know what? We'll take a little break from that and talk some baseball, because obviously that means a lot to us here on the panel, at least two-thirds of us here, and to the listeners as well. So we'll talk a little baseball with Max, and then outside of that, man, I've got some numbers from CBS, 3 numbers to kind of know for each SEC team, and then we've got our predictions. Caveman Rick, you'll have plenty of time today as well to try. Well, I say plenty of time. I sat down for, it takes me about, how long does it take you, Tyler, to get a full conference prediction in?
I think
and this, for me, no research. This is no research. This is just kind of like, all right, what I've heard, what I have researched, but whenever I am sitting there picking, I'm not going in and being like, ooh, what did some of the pundits say about this? Or, and I should be looking at kind of, but we've been hearing about this all summer. With the SEC, it's a little bit different than some of these other conferences, right? Where it's like, I don't even know who your daggum quarterback is. I know what we got going on in the SEC, daggum it. Why? It just means more.
Yeah, no, I mean, it probably took me 10-ish minutes, partially because 10 minutes probably.
Dang.
I mean, I had a pretty good idea. Like, I know that Alabama's going to win most of their games. I know I wasn't a huge fan of Arkansas. Like, I'm not a big fan of Florida's schedule for them. I'll put it nicely that way. Like, I've got some ideas for where teams are going to be going already. And you get a few of those teams, kind of like the Mississippi States and the Texas A&Ms, where I was kind of giving some teams wins and losses here and there, and that's where some of those, like South Carolina's even, I gave them a little too much credit. I think last year I was a little bit believer in Rattler, probably more so than I should have been.
And the conference that we broke down last week was the Big Ten, and you were spot on.
I was killing the Big Ten last year. I killed the Big Ten last year.
I'm looking over here at my SEC predictions, and I'm like, golly, dude. There's only, like I said, okay, add in Texas A&M to the mix. So there's 3 total teams that I was not within one. Arkansas. Well, Arkansas, I got dyslexic on. They were they were 4-8. I had them at 8-4. So essentially, two teams on each side of the conference, East and West, back in the day, 2023, when we actually had that. I don't know that I'm a big fan of not having divisions, man. Like, the more that I look at this, it's like divisions kind of help break it down. Now the championship is going to be so convoluted. Like, when you are looking at, and who knows how often it happens, but let's say you got 3 teams at 11-1 and one sitting there at 10-2, but that team that's 10-2, their lone loss is, or one of the losses is a non-conference loss, and now so it gets even more discombobulated. So I don't know. The more I look at it, the more that I kind of like the conferences. Maybe we do have to go to a 9-conference game schedule. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, no, I think you got to. I think partially just for rotating the schedule. I hope that I want to see them go to the 9 game because I think they'll be able to preserve more of the traditional rivalries that way.
Fair.
So they're talking with an 8 team. If they stay at the 8 teams, they're talking like 1 permanent, 7 rotating. So that means Georgia's going to have to give up either Florida or Auburn, which is more likely going to be Auburn. Bama's going to have to give up Tennessee.
Why do you give? Oh man, that's tough because of the.
Bama's going to have to give up Tennessee or Auburn, which is more likely to be Tennessee. Because they're not going to get rid of Bama and Georgia for Auburn. So you're going to start losing some of these, like. Obviously the Iron Bowl is the Iron Bowl, but like the Deep South's oldest rivalry is huge.
Right.
The 3rd Saturday in October is huge. Like
there's some of these that you just like I'm sorry, Texas and Oklahoma, but you're brand new here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I mean, it'll be weird not playing like Texas or Tennessee every year. It's kind of be weird to not play South Carolina this year. There's teams I grew up like watching Georgia play every year, but like Florida, Auburn, Tech. We got to play those 3.
Yeah.
Outside of that, like, if we play, because you'll play the other schools twice every 4 years. So it's not like you're getting rid of them completely. And it's not like it's going to be like there is now where there's a 12-year gap.
Is Tech a rivalry worth getting rid of in lieu of Florida? If you had to choose Georgia and Georgia Tech at the end of the year, or you replace that with Georgia, Auburn, or Georgia, Florida.
Oh, yeah. Give me Georgia, Auburn, Georgia, Florida over Georgia Tech.
See that? And so, but there's plenty of rivalries that don't go outside of the conference. And then Florida, Florida State. That's the biggest one on Florida's schedule. I don't care what happens in the previous 11 games. For Florida, that's the Super Bowl. Even when they're having great years, that's the biggest game on their schedule. Just the same way with Alabama and Auburn. I don't care if Auburn is 4-7 going into that game. That's the biggest game on the schedule for both teams. So you cannot axe those out of the schedule. And then when I look at going to a 9-conference game schedule compared to an 8-conference game schedule, it's like there's still some non-conference games that I would like to see. However, I know that if they go to 9, you can almost forget about the big teams playing against the big teams, right?
Yeah.
As far as the SEC is concerned, why would you do that? Because it's almost just adding a penalty to your schedule outside of if you need to have a tough schedule. But I can tell you one thing, if Florida could hit the randomizer on the schedule right now, they surely would. And I swear to you, man, looking at my Florida prediction this year, we might be scratching our heads like, David, are you okay today? Is everything all right?
It's a little spicy take for Florida here.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I was very surprised kind of going through it. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to hit them. I'm going to give them this extra win right here. Texas A&M. Texas A&M is another team. If you go 10-2 in the SEC, that's your total record, 2 of those being SEC losses. Do you think you make the playoff? It's not a guarantee, is it?
It's going to depend a little bit on where you start preseason. It's going to depend a little bit on like who your losses were to, how bad they were. I don't think it's a guarantee for anybody. You lose more than one. Because, I mean, if you go back and look at the end of the year rankings, like, you end up with a half dozen one-loss teams typically, between undefeated and one loss. I think there's, six or seven last year to end the year, talking Power 5. So anything above, so one loss will get you in the playoff almost every year.
I'm being corrected here by Florida fans now, and hey, I'm not a Florida fan, so I get this. They're saying so. Bradley Stanford is saying, as a Florida fan, I completely disagree with David. Our two biggest rivals are Georgia and Tennessee. Kyle Albritton saying the same thing with Georgia. I get that. For me, I'm not a Florida fan, so I can't put myself in those shoes at all. It's just like Florida State, like that's the battle of the state, man. Like that means a lot.
I think part of it is,
but it's because they've been garbage for so long. Let's be real about it. It's because they've been garbage for so long that they ain't got no hope really against any of those teams.
If this was Bobby Bowden and Steve Spurrier area, they'd be speaking differently about this.
Well, growing up, Florida fans much more into, at least in my opinion. In my opinion, it doesn't mean as much as Florida fans, but growing up, I heard much more from Florida State stuff than I did about Florida and Georgia.
No, I mean, you add the conference rivalry into it because so many times that Florida-Georgia game in Jacksonville is decided the participant in the East for the SEC championship. Obviously, that's gone away a little bit now with no more divisions. But no, I see it both ways. Like, I mean, I'd understand, especially like being a Florida fan living in Florida. You probably want to you probably interact with Florida State fans more than Georgia and Tennessee. Yeah. If you're kind of in that like Jacksonville, South Georgia area, you probably hate Georgia maybe a little bit more. And I'm that way. Like, I know Georgia fans that hate Tennessee more than anybody because they live in North Georgia and deal with Tennessee kind of right there at the state line. Or if you kind of live in like Columbus, West Georgia, and you're around Auburn fans more often, you may hate Auburn more. And I think a lot of that has to play. Like, who do you have to interact with on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm having to interact with 5 or 6 Florida fans, I'm going to hate them more than if I never talk to a Georgia Tech fan, which is kind of the way it is now. I don't know any Georgia Tech fans really, so like Georgia Tech doesn't really bother me.
So if Florida State was in the SEC, or let's go this direction. If Auburn was in the ACC, I just cannot. I cannot imagine. You guys know my disdain for Ohio State. There's plenty of other schools that I have a disdain for. Like I don't like LSU. Love their fans. Don't like LSU in any sport. Don't like Tennessee. It will never compare to the hatred that I have for the home of ESPN Northwest Florida and the Auburn Tigers. Like, never. Like, it's not even close. Like, you say Auburn, I almost throw up. Like, people talk about the ugly colors of the Tennessee Volunteers, and they dislike that orange. Yeah, I agree, like on the third Saturday in October, but every other Saturday, it's that daggum, as I seen on Wikipedia the other day, they called it burnt orange. I'm like, y'all probably need to update. Yeah, this is Wikipedia we're talking about here. But I saw that, I was like, oh man, just call it Auburn orange or something like that.
But also in the defense, like, you can't unlearn your history with Auburn as far as being a member of the SEC. Like, so like that being them being in conference, like it's going to kind of skew. It could, in theory, skew your feelings. Because if Auburn was like in the ACC and like playing them didn't really matter to the SEC championship game, like it may change the way you feel about Auburn for the last 30 years.
Right.
But it's hard to imagine that now because you've already got those 30 years of like hatred because like that may play a part in it.
I don't think that the SEC like that. I don't think that really started as much until the string of championships started happening.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean? Like before that, it was like, okay, you're in that conference. Like,
yeah, I guess Auburn and Bama didn't really compete for an SEC title from 95, 96 to Saban took over essentially.
Yeah, right. Because Tommy Tuberville like feared the thumb, and we had to fear it.
Yeah, I guess Auburn did go undefeated in 04, so they were doing that.
And back to what you guys what you originally asked about, would the 10-2 make it in? For the most part, I would say yes. I mean, depending on how things are going across the rest of the landscape of college football,
right? Of course,
a 10-2 SEC team is on par with an 11-1 anybody else like this conference, or almost even undefeated, depending as far as the way a lot of people look at this kind of stuff. So I think 10-2 pretty much gets you in, unless like you're I don't know, like one of these obscure teams that is kind of on the fringe. It's not hasn't been there. Like, I don't know, like maybe a Missouri, even though they're kind of on the up
Fair
and up
enough.
right now.
I've got them at 10-2 as well.
It doesn't have like the brand, name or the brand kind of reputation as like Alabama right now.
Which is funny though. It's funny that you mentioned that because Missouri has been a representative in the SEC championship twice, I believe.
Yeah, twice. 14-15.
Yeah, so that was like when they first got into the conference. Now, Joey Ramsey says, as a Florida fan, the FSU game is the biggest rivalry. So maybe this is and Kyle Albritton is much older than, well, I say much older, is older than me, maybe by 6-7 years or so. So I was going to say maybe this is a generational type thing. So I need Florida fans and Florida State fans to chime in here. Just text the number 850-215-6290. For Florida State fans, tell me what y'all's biggest rivalry is. Like, did it change to Clemson over the years, or is it still Florida even during the down years? Could it be Miami? It's got to be someone in the state, right? And for Florida fans, text in 850-215-6290. Is it Georgia? Is it Tennessee? Is it Florida State? Like, I want to know these things. I need to know these things. I want to be on the same side as you guys when I'm talking about your schools for the most part. And then when I'm hearing back like that, it's like, all right, maybe I just don't know those fools as well as I thought I did.
So just for last year, there was 12 Power 5 teams that finished with 2 losses or less.
Last year?
Last year. So that means one would have gotten left out because a G5 conference champion would have had to been in.
And why would have been Florida State? No, I'm joking. They should have been in before, but it didn't.
But anyway,
happen
I think odds are if you have 2 losses, you're probably feeling pretty good about your chances.
Right State Chris says, I need someone super old on here to talk about the FSU Florida rivalry who remember coaches before Bowden and Spurrier. And for that, I would say make sure you're tuned in from 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday to the Coach James Hell Show. But not even making fun of the age, but you want to talk about a library of college football. That's the Coach James Hell Show. Yeah, they spend a little bit more time on Alabama, but you can't blame the guy, right? They know it all, man, especially when you got Coach Manley in the building with him. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Coming up next, it's going to be a while since we've had him on. We're going all the way to Chi-Town. Max Delighting for your Minute with Max.
Go Braves! We got a winner. We have got a winner. 4 free tickets to Atlanta Braves baseball. Take your family. Who do we have? Good morning, sir.
This is Carl Thornton.
Hey, Carl, congratulations. Mo, what's the magic word?
iPhone.
You got it. We got a winner.
I'm up here working on Tinder. I'm from Fort Walton.
What's your team, man? What's your college football team?
LSU Tigers. Right?
All right.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday afternoon. The rest of the day, sunshine and 95 with a moderate breeze at 16 miles per hour out of the west. For tonight, clear skies at a low near 82. Tomorrow, sunny and a high around 92. For Thursday, sunshine most of the day aside from a chance of thunderstorms in the evening and a high of 94. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hi, I'm Sheriff Mike Atkinson. For the last 16 years, you've trusted my leadership at the Walton County Sheriff's Office. In that time, UCR crime rates have dropped 67%. That's no coincidence. You can count on me to serve with continued professionalism and provide the excellent hometown service you want. At our agency, excellence matters, as our law enforcement, fire rescue, and animal services are the first on scene. On Tuesday, August 20th, vote to re-elect Atkinson for Walton County Sheriff.
Paid for by Michael Atkinson Jr., Republican for Sheriff.
In the jewelry business, there is no substitute for experience. David Adamson has over 46 years of experience, 32 of those in Lynn Haven. Designing and creating fine jewelry is more than a job for David, it's a joy. If you're looking for a spectacular jewelry design that says you, or perhaps you need your jewelry repaired, look no further than David Adamson Designer Jewelry. All work is done in-house and always to your complete satisfaction. Stop in today at David Adamson Designer Jewelry, 830 Ohio Avenue in Lynn Haven. They're on Facebook and at tcjeweler.com.
He doesn't live paycheck to paycheck. He lives transaction to transaction.
I need about $350.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Keep them rolling in. 850-215-6290. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. Man, we got some good texts rolling in from, I believe, Don. He says Florida Gators will go all the way in their conference and win the national championship game. So bring on UM, Miami, Florida State, Oklahoma, and Texas. We also got one in from, I'm not sure who texted in, but we appreciate the text, 9678. They say Miami. So I'm assuming this is a Florida State fan saying that Miami is their bigger rival. And then my favorite text that we've gotten so far, I believe this is from Tim. I believe Tim Adams here. I believe a Florida fan, not entirely sure on that. I know he's a Philadelphia Phillies fan. Oh, he is. He says go Gators in one of his previous texts. So, yes, he is a Gator. It depends on the era, he says. Vince Dooley days, Florida hated Georgia the most. The 90s, it was FSU. And then it was Tennessee after that. In this era, it's our athletic department. So there you have it. And I do agree with that for some teams, like Ohio State, Michigan. That one ain't changing, right? Like, not for the foreseeable future. I don't care how big of a rivalry Ohio State and Oregon turns into. Ohio State and Michigan ain't changing. Alabama, Auburn. Like, I don't care how much we hate Tennessee, how much we hate LSU. There's going to be times where, of course, we kind of overlook Auburn, but the hatred that we have, the respectful hatred that we have for them, And like, here's another thing where this comes into, right, is recruiting, right? Like, we're not recruiting as hard. Alabama, rather, I sound like Nick Saban on the SEC network right now. Alabama is not recruiting as hard against Tennessee and LSU as it is against Auburn. Even though maybe right now it looks like that because Auburn's got 8 of the top 10 commits from the state of Alabama wrapped up right now. But hey, they like to flip.
A lot of time for flipping.
A lot of time for flipping. But that was a great quote there from Tim Adams. He is a Florida alum. He went there from 2000 to 2003. So I appreciate all you guys. Keep the text rolling in, 850-215-6290. If you're a Florida State fan, tell me who you feel like your biggest rivalry is. If you're a Florida fan, same exact question. Who's your biggest rival? All right, we've got Max. Oh, my goodness. It's almost going to be like we're talking to a ghost here. Max Delyden for your Minute with Max. What's going on in Chi-Town, my man?
What is up, fellas? How are you guys doing today?
Almost forgot what you look like, Max, but we're hanging in there.
Still don't know what you look like, or still have forgotten what you look like. But I do remember that voice.
That's a good image to forget.
Nah. What's going on, my man? How's Chi-Town been treating you?
It's been good. I've been bouncing between Wisconsin and Chicago. Perk of my job is that I can work remote, so I can't complain one bit. Man, it's been nice. It's a little cloudy today, but getting out of the humidity for a little bit is always good. I went to a Cubs game. We lost 1-0. But it's been fun. How have you guys been?
We've been good. Hey, it could be a totally different feeling for you if you were a White Sox fan. Or are you cheering for the White Sox to? How many losses in a row do you think the White Sox end up with? Sitting at 21
I don't know.
now.
They'll probably break it against us because we're equally awful. But I think it's so funny, like, this streak. Because, like, as a Cubs fan, you don't really think about the White Sox very much. Like, they're just never good. They've won one playoff series in the past. Or the only time they've won playoff series in the past 100 years is the World Series year. So they're not really, like, a threat of any kind. And it's always good for the city, at least. But it's not like a team you hate like the Cardinals just because they have, like, witchcraft magic to win games. But it's pretty funny seeing, like, the Oakland A's being minus 210 against the White Sox. Like, that's so bad.
But, I mean, yes, it is bad, especially, I guess not having Mason Miller isn't a huge advantage for the White Sox. But are you going to go to one of those games while you're up there? I mean, how often do you get the opportunity to be in Chi-Town and Cubs playing the White Sox?
Yeah, possibly. I might be up in Wisconsin again. I was actually... I was at the Cubs-Brewers game when we lost 1-0, which was very fun. Always fun to go to a scoreless game. But I'll try and make it there if I can. It's always fun to see That's always fun just to kind of mess with White Sox fans.
I want them to break that record since I'm a Phillies fan and they hold the record at 23 or 23 straight losses. So I don't want us to have that distinction any longer.
Yeah, and that was like in the 60s, right? And then it's like the Orioles
61.
in like 88, I think I saw.
Yeah, 61 is when the Phillies did it. Not something I'm proud of.
Hey, but if you're gonna be bad, you might as well be the best worst team of all. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might as well hold the record.
We were
at
the
that point.
first to like 10,000 losses as well. So like we got enough. We're good.
Yeah,
but that's
the
also
worst thing,
been around for a long time.
Yeah, and the worst thing for the White Sox too is that they might set the all-time record, and like that's very attainable. When I was in Wisconsin with my cousins last week, my cousin's like, "No way, no chance that's going to happen." And they kept losing, so here we are, 27 wins. I think 43 is the record. I don't know. At least that's like the modern day record. It's hard to really gauge it past like, I don't know, 100 years because it's just a totally different sport. So
there you go, and we can definitely tell he's in Chicago, right? The windy city with the wind in the background. What's some of your other?
Really windy?
Yeah, it's not that bad. I just really wanted to try to, put out again that you're in Chicago, and I heard the wind, so that's the direction I went with. What are some other things in baseball that's been sticking out to you? How about the trade deadline? Was it a deadline or a exciting trade deadline for you?
Yeah, it was fine. No one, there wasn't anything like too colossal. I thought some of the bigger teams would make some splashes, or someone would try and go for an ace. I really thought the Phillies might go for someone too, better than Austin Hayes, just because the Phillies have looked, not great the past 10 days or whatever, but I feel like for most of the season they probably looked like the best team. So I was surprised they didn't get another, stud pitcher, because obviously Wheeler's the man, and then Nola's good, but Nola's very good, but I don't think he's like elite, if that makes sense. I think he's never fully lived up to what he should be, but I don't know. I still think it's the Phillies to lose. I think the Phillies are so good.
Yeah. Did you have any bets yesterday on Castellanos to go yard with the crashing of the stock market?
No, some people were offended too. They're like, dude, are you pissed us because it's Freddie Freeman coming back from his son being in the hospital? I was like, oh my gosh. But
I did put I put a little dollar bet on Freddie Freeman to hit the first home run of that game yesterday, and right before he got up for a second at bat, Teoscar Hernandez went yards.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. That was a good pitching duel too. Not pitching duel, but pitching matchup between Glasnow and Nova. That's pretty funny. I love how whenever there's strife, Castellanos is sure to make an impact.
Dude, it started out like Johnny Yankee Seed got it at plus 1750. By the time that I put any action on it, which was right before the game started, probably about 8:45, it was down to plus 425. Right before the show started, it was at plus 550. So interesting. And I think I put a little buckaroo on Bryce Harper to go yard too, and I don't think that he accomplished that last night either. Yeah, that game, man, the final 3 innings of that game flew by. I was playing a little duos with Liam last night on College Football 25 and had the game on, and next thing you know, it's like, oh golly, that thing's already over. Hey, Castellanos, though, we do got to give him credit. He was close. He was like, probably 7 feet away from going yard in center field.
Yep.
I love how his wife's always like, you guys got to stop doing this. Like, he doesn't need to be known for this. It's like, well, it's too bad, because that's what he's known for.
Yep, absolutely. What else, man? What else you got for us today in baseball? Or any shade for Florida State?
In baseball, too, but I've really been enjoying the Summer Olympics. I think the Summer Olympics are like tenfold better than the Winter Olympics. Winter Olympics is like the same equipment, same stuff every time, and I love like the track and field and the swimming races are some of the most hyped things. Like, I love watching them with like the line moving, and I love the swimming. I think it's so cool.
Yeah,
and those guys are total fish. Like, I can't believe how fast they are, and they just keep getting faster. Like, it's crazy that Michael Phelps doesn't have any more records.
That's a great point, too, man. Fink getting the 1,500-meter world record. That's one of my favorite events to watch. I strongly disagree with you. And I think it's I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was James. I can't remember who it was that brought up this take, but maybe people here from the South are more inclined to watch the Winter Olympics because there's things going on that we don't normally get to experience, and maybe people from up there in the North enjoy the Summer Olympics because, well, they get summer too, though. They get
yeah. I don't know. I think that is a good point, but I mean, outside of like hockey, I don't know. I think that it's cool. Like, don't get me wrong, those guys are like total daredevil, talented. Like, it's insane. There's probably a lot higher margin for injury in a lot of those. But at the end of the day, I think it gets like very repetitive. Kind of, which I know this is kind of a hot take too, but like the gymnastics gets kind of old for me. Like, I think they're so cool, so talented. Simone Biles is insane, but like, I don't know. I don't get as into it, if that makes sense, on like the opinion graded ones as much as I do for like the races and just the competition where it's all happening at one time.
You don't like where they score with scorecards. You want to see an actual winner.
Yes, I want it to be black and white.
Exactly,
not
that's
gray.
how I am.
I think most of us are like that, right? Like for real sports like for sports fans who watch games all the time, for us, like we'd rather see something where there's a clear-cut winner rather than, let's give them a score, which to each their own. But I think for most of us sports fans, we enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
All right. Well, what's your least favorite Olympic sport here in the Summer Olympics? I'm going to say fencing. I actually tuned into that for the other day and was just like, oh, gosh, take the gear off, get some real swords. Maybe I'll be more into it. But what about for you? What's been one of the ones that you're like, I can't really get down with this one?
Fencing. Them adding like breakdancing, I think, is pretty stupid.
Which we haven't seen yet. That'll be this weekend.
Yeah. Those are probably the ones that bore me. I mean, most of them are pretty entertaining to me. Even like table tennis, when they show some of the highlights, I'm like, oh my gosh. I love that Anthony Edwards is in the crowd.
Yeah.
I love that the French crowd's been booing Embiid at the games. I mean, he's been horrible, and he's been just riding the bench. So it's kind of funny because he's like not American at all. So it's kind of a sellout move. Did France end up holding on today against Canada, by the way?
Yes, they did.
Ooh. Nice little upset.
I think some of like the tennis, like the table tennis ones, like, because you and I can go play ping pong right now.
Right.
And we can play and it'd be very often. Then you watch them and you're like, holy crap, how do they? I think that's part of because you have a base level knowledge of like, I'm this good, but these people are like 38 times better than me. And I think that's part of like some of that stuff where you can, like, I can go play golf.
Right.
I can't play golf like Scotty Scheffler. It's like, well, watching stuff that you can do just on a much worse level, I think it gives you kind of an appreciation for some, instead of some of the stuff you've never tried before.
And I think that's why I'm so appreciative of sports across the board. Like, I know what I'm capable of in baseball, and it is not single-A level. Like, it's not collegiate level. I know what I'm capable of. So that's why it's wild for me to read all of the keyboard warriors and like, oh, you should be doing that. You should be. It's like, dude, just chill out. Let's just talk about what they did and what they didn't do and not what they should do to some degree.
It's so hard to become an Olympian, too, so I always laugh when people are commenting on it.
How about go ahead.
I was there. What about when you got things going on, like when we win the gold in, say, table tennis, and our, team looks like the exact same team across the world that we're playing against? Like racially and stuff like that. It's basically the same thing, 6 and 1, half a dozen the other.
It's like that meme of our U.S. national or international math champion squad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Same way with our cricket team, right?
Hey, have y'all seen the news about the game being played in Bristol next year?
Yeah, the Braves and Reds.
How do y'all feel about that?
Oh, I mean, it's cool. It's cool. It's a way for, NASCAR to get some baseball fans into the building.
Oh, so Bristol, the racetrack?
Yeah, Bristol, the racetrack.
It's going to be the Braves Reds.
Yeah,
not ESPN headquarters.
Yeah, no, not Connecticut. So
is that going to be like launching
ESPN,
the launch pad 2.0 for the Braves? Because Bristol's a small track, is it not?
Yeah. I don't know what the field's going to look like. I'm sure it's going to be on the infield.
I imagine.
I don't know if I don't want to go to Connecticut, to be honest with you, so.
That's pretty cool, too, because that way, NASCAR fans can finally get to watch a sport.
Wow.
Max delighted.
Hey, I mean,
Wild card delighted.
They do run the base pads counterclockwise the same way they drive left-hand turns, right? So there's a little similarity there, right?
Ain't nothing but left turns on the base paths, baby. And we should be seeing a lot of action on the base paths with Ellie De La Cruz, and hopefully Ronald Acuna Jr. will be back by that time. Anything else standing out to you? Any of the races in the National League or the American League, do you think any of those are going to be changing soon? In fact, actually, let me read off a quote real quick here from Tim Adams. I told Max last night that if the Phils don't win this series against the Dodgers, that he thinks that they might be cooked. looked. He's standing by that prediction. Something's really going wrong in that clubhouse. So, Max, you kind of philosophize around that particular text there, and then we'll let Caveman Rick the Philly go after it.
Yeah, I think, I think everyone, it's a 162-game season, so everyone hits their lulls and hot patches, and the Phillies were hot for a couple months. It really just depends on, and this is such a cliche, but if you can get hot at the end of September and just keep that momentum rolling, anything can happen. I mean, who would have thought we'd see the Rangers Diamondbacks in the World Series going into the playoffs last year, Like, it's tough.
Maybe Mattress Jim.
Like, I've seen, like, a post, too, that, like, Stan's called me, which is funny because I think, like, baseball losses just, like, always suck. Like, they hurt so much every time. Like, because you're always thinking about, like, it's a longer game. Every game matters to an extent. And, like, it's always, like, painful to lose in baseball, I feel like. Like, you didn't hit that day or whatever. But, like, in other sports, it's just, like, another game. Like, your college hoops team loses, it stinks, but you move on. I guess in football, too, if you're a juggernaut, like, it really stings for a while. But I feel like baseball, like, the lowest lows are just lower than in any sport. I mean, you could say golf too, but golf's such an individualistic sport. So I don't know. I think the Phillies are going to be fun personally, but
I think for golf, the only person who it stings outside of the golfer and maybe their team or family and friends of them is the people who bet on the golfers. Outside of that, like, I've never really met anyone and be like, man, Tiger Woods lost today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, I guess maybe if you're, like, a diehard, like you're a ride or die with Rory, like, it's been pretty tough to defend him the past 10 years or whatever. Or, like, we thought JT or Spieth were going to be the next guy, and now they're not. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole we can go down sometime, is who the U.S. Ryder Cup team is going to be, because there is a steep drop-off after about 5 or 6 guys. So, I don't know. That's a whole you could do a whole show about that.
Yeah, no doubt, and that's a great opportunity for the old inside drive, so maybe you have to get on that panel there. Caveman Rick, your thoughts on the Phillies?
Yeah, first, feel bad for the caddies, too, because they ain't making the money either.
That's a good point. Phillies, I think they still get paid off the cut.
Yeah, but your guy has to be winning and has to be making money. Like, not every golfer, like Liv does make money, but not every other golfer, like, gets a check after every tournament, right? I don't believe.
Yeah, but if you're Spieth or I don't know, if you're Spieth or JT, your caddy's still doing pretty well.
Oh, sure. So, like, endorsements alone, you're making good money, and I'm sure they're probably getting hooked up too because they're associated with you. But still, like, there's somebody else, another mouth to feed, I guess, if you will. Somebody on the payroll, some overhead. But like with the Phillies, I would say, I'm not ready to hit the panic button yet. Our lead did dwindle down to a handful of games now, so that is a little menacing. Like I was telling David the other day, so far, a lot of the woes have been against AL teams. That's not going to matter until the World Series, I guess. So if we can keep winning against NL teams, we can worry about that bridge when we cross it, hopefully at the World Series. But right now, it's the dog days of summer, right? Everybody's got highs, everybody's got lows. It's a roller coaster. It's a long marathon. So as long as it doesn't continue, if we're still in the same boat 2 weeks from now, then I'll be panicking.
Max, anything you want to leave the people with, my man?
Some wisdom. Coaches poll, FSU at number 10, way too high. The ACC is terrible this year again. So don't get your hopes up too high. At least you get a little padding that top 4 conferences get a bye. But that team ranked at 10 would be about a 6th or 7th place team in the SEC or Big Ten.
There you have it. Wild Card Delighted. Your minute with Max. You can call us, but he is not going to be on the line with us. Hey, when do you plan to be back here in Florida?
I've got a wedding a week from Friday, and then I should be back in.
All right, so maybe phone next week again?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. And I'm looking forward to it, and I would love to hear how FSU fans think they're a top 10 team.
There we go. Well, we give our best to you and Vicky. Hopefully y'all are both doing well up there in Chicago, and we'll chat with you next week, my man.
All righty, take care, y'all, and great talking to you guys. Great to hear your voice.
Yeah, man, enjoy that weather.
Mr. Delighten always takes it to the max. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Quick timeout. We'll be right back with some key numbers to know about every SEC team for this 2024 college football season.
Are you ready to go under the lights? Mosley Dolphin football is back. ESPN Northwest Florida brings you live play-by-play coverage all season long. With David Hayes.
Touchdown, Mosley Dolphins.
And Kyle Wright.
And the interception turns into points for the Mosley offense.
As the Mosley Dolphins take on rivals Niceville, Rutherford, and the Bay Tornadoes. Exclusively on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday afternoon. The rest of the day, sunshine and 95 with a moderate breeze at 16 miles per hour out of the west. For tonight, clear skies and a low near 82. Tomorrow, sunny and a high around 92. For Thursday, sunshine most of the day aside from a chance of thunderstorms in the evening and a high of 94. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Golf is a game that should be fun, but to have the most fun, you need to play your best. That's where the experts at Golf Plus come in. Their friendly staff will guide you through the buying process, answer all your questions, and can help with any repairs you need along the way. Golf Plus is your custom fitting, club repair, and golf retail shop. Golf Plus staff is non-commissioned and will work with you to find the best product for your game, just like they've been doing since 1988. Golf Plus in Dothan and Panama City Beach. Fitting, repair, retail. That's Golf Plus.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
The Atlanta Braves are battling back in the division and keeping their sights set on the playoffs as the season heats up.
Bounce up the middle, might get through. It does! Base hit! Braves win! Austin Riley comes through with the winner!
Tonight, Austin Riley and the Braves ramp up for another series against the Milwaukee Brewers, live from Truist Park in Atlanta.
Braves coverage begins following the Afternoon Underdogs at 6. First pitch, 6:20. Your home for the Braves, ESPN Northwest Florida.
We don't sell the steak.
You can stir this all up.
We sell the sizzle. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Very spicy.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
You're back in the doghouse riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. It's David Hayes, Tyler Bishop, and Caveman Rick. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Taking your calls and texts to 850-215-6290. ESPN Northwest Florida is presenting the Week of Winning, so chop on, Atlanta Braves fans. We're giving away family 4-packs of tickets to experience the Braves at Truist Park during the Week of Winning. This game is going to be Saturday night, August 24th versus the Washington Nationals. The Week of Winning contest times are going to be tomorrow, Wednesday at 12:40 on the Inside Drive, then Thursday at 5:40 on the Afternoon Underdogs, then back to the Coach James Hale Show Friday at 7:40 a.m. When you hear the cue to call, be caller number 10, 850-215-6290, and give us the phrase that pays. Chop on. The Braves Week of Winning on ESPN Northwest Florida, brought to you by PCB Hobby, Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas Drive, and Home 2 Suites. All right, got a few numbers here for...
Hey, chop off.
Yeah, buddy. What are we looking at? Well, y'all lost yesterday, so still five.
Yeah,
actually four and a half. Braves got the Brewers. They'll be right here on ESPN Northwest Florida. Coverage starting at 6 after the Afternoon Underdogs. First pitch at 6:20. All right, few numbers here. Starting off with the Crimson Tide of Alabama. 40. They lost 40 outgoing transfers in the transfer portal. That is the second most in FBS, most in program history.
Also head coach.
That's an impressive. Even if it's including walk-ons, that's 40 out of 120. You're still talking like bare minimum 30% of the roster.
You know what else really isn't being talked about is going through the, obviously I've seen the schedule quite a few times now, but like going through it game by game, you're like, really, it's not all that bad if the team, and I think for me, I'm giving Bama more credit than what they deserve because, one, their toughest game on the schedule is at the house, where they tend to play very well. And then also, it would be one thing if it was Kalen DeBoer and a new quarterback at the helm. But because it's Jalen Milroe, I feel a little bit more confident in at least year one.
Is that a little menacing or upsetting to you? I mean, yeah, the coach isn't there. It's Nick Saban. But, I mean, it's still the program. It's still Alabama. It's still the culture for the most part. You wouldn't think that it's going to change drastically overnight like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, to me, yeah, it does seem like kind of high, you would think.
Go ahead.
It could definitely go either way. I mean, there is, that's why people who say, nobody would want this job, this job is set up for elite success for, you know what I'm saying? The roster is top notch.
It'd be like Barry Switzer winning a Super Bowl, man, with Jimmy Johnson's players. I mean, for at least the next couple of years, you pretty much got it made, right? The program?
Well, outside of the transfer.
In theory, because they did lose 40 players. But part of it is, how much did Nick Saban have to, reel these guys in? Was Nick Saban, we've always heard stories about how authoritative and everything he is. Was he having to, how much of that was him specifically, keeping these guys in check, quote unquote? And I don't even mean, doing poorly off the field, but just as a whole, as a program, was he having to do that a ton? Or was it the culture is already there and he didn't have to do it as much? Unless you're in that building, I don't think anybody can say it. So does Kalen DeBoer have that same pool? Is he doing that same amount? Or is he letting them maybe kids be kids? Maybe he's got a whole different philosophy altogether, and it kind of undoes some. I'm not saying definitely either way. I'm just saying it could go either way when you're talking as far as it's already set up. Well, between portal and NFL and everything else, a lot of those kids will be gone but in a year and a half anyway. And like I said, obviously DeBoer's won everywhere he's gone, so I can't argue his process, whatever that is. It's going to be interesting to see the difference.
Yeah, and I think that it goes to show that kids don't necessarily sign up to play for or commit to the program as much as they do the coach. And then there's also with Kalen DeBoer coming over, and he's bringing his staff. He's bringing some of his players as well. So, some of those guys who maybe were hoping, all right, well, now I'm moving up in the depth chart, and then they get knocked right back down by some Washington players moving over. So I think that it's a multi-layered answer there, and the only thing, it's the same way with Michigan, right? Michigan lost a lot of talent to the NFL, but they're not.
But they hired from within, though.
That's what I'm saying. The difference with them is Sharon Moore is taking over. So, and then Washington, who's getting a heck of a coach, Jed Fish over there, right? Yep. We got a text earlier from someone why is no one talking about Washington? And it's yes, they got a good coach who did great things at Arizona, but the roster turnover is tremendous. With Bama, I don't know what the number is of the transfers that they got back in, but Washington is going to be trotting out 10% of their roster from last year. So that's going to be tough. The next number for Bama, 16. They've won 10 plus games in 16 straight seasons. That is the longest streak in college football history. And the number 10, which is Kalen DeBoer, will seek to become the first Alabama head coach to win 10 plus games in his first season. However, most of the times when these coaches are taking over, they're not having the roster that Kalen DeBoer is walking into. And also Nick Saban is still, he's not, doesn't got a title, but he's still a part of the program. He's got an office up there. He's got to be lurking like a gargoyle up there. He has a presence. There you go. The Arkansas Razorbacks, the first number is 5. 5 of their 8 losses in 2023 were by 7 points or less, which is tied for the most in FBS. I have a feeling that number maybe changes. They got Bobby Petrino's over there. Yeah. But they don't got KJ Jefferson anymore, so how is that quarterback going to step up? And will he help them if they have 8 more games that are going to be 7 points or less, that's a tight ball game, man. 4.9. Bobby Petrino returns as the OC after Arkansas averaged 4.9 yards per play in 2023. Good for 116th in the FBS.
I was about to say, that does not sound like a great number.
No, and neither does this, especially if your first name is Sam and your last name is Pittman. 4. They've got 4 wins or less in 5 of the last 7 years, and I believe that was one of the schools. Yeah, that was one of the schools that I was a little off on. I've been high on Arkansas since the second year of Sam Pittman. I've been high on them, and daggum it, each and every year I have to eat them daggum words.
Yeah, no, I'm a pretty big Sam Pittman guy. I thought I had really high hopes for him. Even that 2020 year was pretty good. 2021 was good, but it's just kind of been down. Like it's not getting better, which is not a great sign.
Falling back to earth slowly but surely. The Auburn Tigers, their three numbers, 162.2. They've averaged an SEC worst of 162.2 pass yards per game in 2023, which is good for 124th out of 131 teams in the FBS. Do you think that Peyton Thorne, Hugh Freeze get that number changed this year? They've got some talented wide receivers, but very young this year.
Can't get much worse, right?
Yeah,
it's got to get better.
You've got almost nowhere to go, but it'd be almost impossible to average less.
Do they get top 60?
Ooh,
no.
Man.
That's because that's like
I'm not answering this.
That's doing that's double.
I'll say yeah.
So I say no.
I just don't.
That's too big of a jump,
dude. You know who? And this is according to On3, but their quarterback, I believe it's Walker White, the backup quarterback. He's a freshman. He's the highest. He's got the highest NIL according to On3.com.
On the entire team?
Yeah, the entire team, more than Peyton Thorne. Now, obviously, probably not every one of these deals are disclosed, and then the second most is a freshman wide receiver. So they've got some things heading in the right direction for the Auburn Tigers. The next number, 10. They had the number 10 ranked recruiting class in 2024, multiple 5-star signees for the first time since 2017. And their final number, 3. They're coming off 3 consecutive losing seasons for the first time since 1975 through the 77 season. Does it continue?
I don't think so. Looking at their schedule, I think it sets up relatively nice for them.
I thought
to have a little bounce back.
Where's Auburn getting that NIL money, man? Like Charles Barkley?
They got the Yellowwood guy.
Yeah, the Yellowwood guy. They've got
he's a huge booster.
Okay.
Brad Law was on talking with us today on the Inside Drive today, and he was saying Auburn is not they're not behind in the NIL game.
No.
At all. The next team, Florida Gators. Kyle Albritton, have your ears open here. 72.9% returning starter quarterback Graham Mertz completed 72.9% of his pass attempts in 2023, which we've had 2 terrible numbers in the FBS. This is a great number. 3rd in the FBS, and it's not like he just played a couple of games either.
Yeah.
So, and he didn't toss a lot of interceptions, didn't turn the ball over. If that defense could tighten up a little bit,
that's what makes it really interesting for Florida this year, because Lagway is going to be the same, but Mertz wasn't the problem.
And Mertz
Lagway isn't going to improve your team. It's going to be a very interesting dynamic watching Florida this year.
The next number for them, 7. They had 7 takeaways in 2023, so it flip-flops here. This time, that's the second fewest in the FBS. So right there's your issue, right? The issue is not quarterback, just as you mentioned. It's we've got to create turnovers. The Gators got to get the ball back, and it starts with making teams turn the ball over. And then number 3, they're coming off 3 straight losing seasons for the first time since we thought that the Auburn number was crazy. 1945 through the 47 season.
Wow.
And it could continue.
Right after World War II. Wow.
Yeah. We'll have to see about those Florida Gators this year. All I know is one thing. They better win those games early, because those final, 5 games of the season, you talk about an obstacle course.
Well, and then, it's the final 5, but even the 2 before that, Tennessee and Kentucky. Kentucky's had their number for 4 or 5 years, basically.
Right.
And then at Tennessee, Rocky Top's not an easy place to play. That Heupel system, it either gets you or it doesn't. But if it gets you, it's going to get you big, and that's, man. It's a tough
Rocky
end.
Top. Yeah, no doubt. For the Georgia Bulldogs, 42 is the first number. They're 42-2 over the last 3 seasons, which is good for the most wins in FBS. Best record in 3-year span since Nebraska did it in 1993 through the 1995 season. Also, the number 39, they have won 39 consecutive regular season games, and that's the longest streak since Miami won 39 from 2000 to 2003. They started off the season with Clemson. Tyler's going to be at that game, so we'll have we'll have a great recap from that from Tyler the following Tuesday. And then number 1, they've got the number 1 recruiting class for the 3rd time since 2018, tied for the most number 1 classes with Alabama in that span. We'll move on to Kentucky. The number 12, Mark Stoops, enters his 12th season at Kentucky as the longest tenured head coach in the SEC. Number 8, their average number of wins. No.
that's probably about right.
Appeared in bowl game in appeared in bowl game and program record 8 straight seasons, third longest active SEC streak behind Georgia and Alabama. And then the number 7, they scored 7 knots. That's non-offensive touchdowns in 2023, which was tied for the most in the FBS with Notre Dame and SMU.
I kind of respect Kentucky for being in Iowa in the sense is like they've had a guy who's been there for a while. You know his ceiling, but you know his floor, and kind of accepting where you are as a program and just being okay with that. Yeah. And there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, I'd rather be 8-4 than, hoping to be 9-3, but risking being 2-10.
That's a great take there. We will go to break with LSU here, and then we'll try to wrap these up rather quickly, and then we'll dive into the SEC schedule. The numbers for LSU, 45.5. They averaged an FBS best 45.5 points per game in 2023, which was good for the second most in program history. I'm assuming here, without looking, 2019 was probably
I would have to imagine
the year that outdid that one. 40. They went 9-0 when allowing fewer than 40 points in 2023. Which you should be undefeated when you're allowing fewer than 40 points. The problem was they were 0-3 when allowing 40 plus. And then the number 7, Brian Kelly, has 10 plus wins in 7 consecutive seasons. That is the longest streak by any active FBS head coaches. We've got a few more teams to go, and then we'll dive into our record predictions for each SEC team when we get back. Hour number 2 up next.
Are you ready to go under the lights? Mosley Dolphin football is back.
Wide open down the sideline.
ESPN Northwest Florida brings you live play-by-play coverage all season long. With David Hayes.
Touchdown, Mosley Dolphin.
And Kyle Wright.
You take the top off the defense, and the interception turns into points for the Mosley offense.
Exclusively on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday afternoon. The rest of the day, sunshine and 95 with a moderate breeze at 16 miles per hour out of the west. For tonight, clear skies and a low near 82. Tomorrow, sunny and a high around 92. For Thursday, sunshine most of the day aside from a chance of thunderstorms in the evening and a high of 94. This weather forecast is sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
At Brock Lawn and Pest Control, we're proud to be awarded the distinction of being Quality Pro certified.
Our technicians have passed rigorous training in eco-friendly application and prevention of pest treatments.
Part of the program is the practice of integrated pest management.
IPM's goal is to prevent pests from ever entering your home. It includes inspection, prevention, education, and, when necessary, application.
We're proud to be Quality Pro certified.
Brock Lawn and Pest Control, the standard and level of trust.
Hey there, business owners. Do you feel lost in a sea of numbers, struggling to navigate your day-to-day accounting? At Lighthouse CPAs, they specialize in guiding businesses to make more money and keep more of what you make. From bookkeeping to tax planning, they've got you covered. Plus, with their user-friendly software, managing your finances has never been easier. Spend less time on paperwork and more time growing your business. Call Lighthouse CPAs 850-785-5254.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota. ESPN Northwest Florida.
He has one man to beat. He beat him. Jarquez Hunter. Touchdown Auburn.
Kickoff on the Plains is coming.
50-10. Ford to the end zone. Touchdown Peyton Ford.
Auburn football returns August 31st.
The kick is on the way. The season is underway.
Only on your home for the Tigers.
Auburn fans, we're bringing you every single game this season on the exclusive home for the Auburn Tigers on the Gulf Coast. ESPN Northwest Florida War Eagle.
Chop on, Braves fans.
That is gone!
Since 2017, your home for the Atlanta Braves on the Gulf Coast. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs. You're in the doghouse riding along with us. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop and Caveman Rick. It's the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida. Tonight, after the Afternoon Underdogs, it's going to be the Atlanta Braves. They are hosting the Milwaukee Brewers. Colin Rhea going for the Brewers. Or maybe Colin Ray. He's 9-3, ERA 3.59. WHIP is sitting at 1.20. He's thrown for 115 innings. He's given up 103 hits, struck out 90, 35 walks, and given up 16 home runs. A little lower numbers or higher in some instances for the Braves starter tonight. Bryce Elder, who is 2-4, ERA sitting at 5.67. The WHIP at 1.54. Innings pitched, just 46 of them, giving up 56 hits, 40 strikeouts, 15 walks, and 6 home runs. The Braves...
I was going to say, quick shout out. I think our boy Rick Ty's over there. He was there at a game yesterday. So maybe he's at the game today, too. I don't know, but possibly could be at the game.
There you go. Well, Braves do lead the regular season series against the Brewers 2-1. Hopefully they can keep it rolling. This is, a tough stretch for the Phillies, so you got to take advantage, and they did not do that over the weekend, just splitting that series with the Miami Marlins. And the ESPN matchup predictors got the Milwaukee Brewers as a 54.4% favorite tonight. Jorge Soler is going to be back in that leadoff position. Man, I am itching to get Michael Harris the second back into this lineup. But you don't want to rush him back, man. We don't want to be looking at our medical staff the same way that AG and Kyle Wright look at the Cincinnati Reds. We left off talking about 3 numbers you need to know about every SEC team. Left off with the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. 40. Oh, we left off with Ole Miss? Did we do Mississippi State?
No, we didn't do. Well, it's Ole Miss on here. It's probably Mississippi State. No, we didn't do Ole Miss. We did LSU.
Ole Miss is going to be.
Is it down there at the
end?
Okay.
It's down in the.
It's under.
Okay. Yeah, so that.
So like on the schedule was after.
Yeah, because they got them as Mississippi on that.
Yeah. Well, it says Ole Miss on there. It's just a difference of whatever.
Well, either way, on this particular list here, Mississippi State, 41.7. New head coach Jeff Lebby averaged 41.7 points per game as the OC for Oklahoma in 2023, which was good for 4th in the FBS. 13. They failed to play in a bowl game for the first time since Dan Mullen's first season in 2009. That's 13 consecutive seasons. It was a weird year for Mississippi State.
Yeah, with the whole league situation,
exactly.
And then Arnett taking over. That it wasn't 100% his fault.
The number one. They were not number one last year. No, number one, they went 1-7 in SEC play in 2023. That's their fewest wins in SEC play since going 1-7 back in 2006.
I think I got them going worse this year. So
worse than 1-7? There's only one thing worse than 1-7.
Their schedule's pretty tough in conference.
Yes, it is, man. I forgot what I got them going, but I might be right there with you, brother. Let's go to Missouri, though. 1,212, which is the number of receiving yards for Luther Burden III, who poses a threat to be a burden to all defenses across the board this year. That 1,212 receiving yards, good for 4th most among returning wide receivers at the FBS level. The number 11, they're coming off an 11-2 record in 2023, which is their most wins since going 11-3 back in 2014. And then the number 8, they finished number 8 in the final AP poll last year. They haven't had back-to-back top 10 finishes since 1968 and the 69 season. So it's been a while. Do you believe in drink?
I don't 100% yet. I mean, what he did last year was obviously very good. He was kind of on the hot seat going into last year, so it's kind of a one-year wonder so far. But the schedule does set up nice for him to have a nice bounce-back season, follow-up success with success. So and that's great for building the foundation going forward.
Great success. Oklahoma Sooners. The number 50. They had 5 games scoring 50-plus points in 2023, which was the most in FBS. Problem is, big shoes to fill, as Dylan Gabriel is going to be the quarterback for the Oregon Ducks. The number 14, they left the Big 12 with a record 14 conference championships. Texas was second with 4.
It did feel like for a while, especially, that Bob Stoops and even Lincoln Riley are there winning just and Texas was pretty bad for a lot of those years too. So it's crazy when you hear it put that way, but it's not super surprising when you think about it, I guess.
Who do you think long term, like let's say we're sitting here in 2034, which team do you think has more success in the SEC? Right now, Texas seems to be built better for it, but does that last?
Man, I'm not super sold on Venables as a head coach yet.
Yeah.
So I believe in Sark more based on what we've seen, and I think that puts him in a nice leg up. Because if you're Sark, you don't go anywhere but the NFL, and I don't think NFL is going to come calling for him.
Because he already had, I don't know.
He was the OC for the Falcons.
for the Falcons, yeah.
I don't. So in Texas has the money in this NIL period. It's going to be hard for them to do that poorly, I think, in the second half of that decade and for Oklahoma to catch up.
Yeah, that's a good point. The final number for Oklahoma, 16.1. They allowed 16.1 points per game during their 7-0 start. In 23, they allowed 32 points per game while going 3-3 over the final 6 games, which is not a good number when your head coach is a defensive mind.
Yeah, giving up 34 points a game, you're going to lose a lot of games.
Yeah, right. And I don't remember the schedule off the top of my head, but that was not their more formidable opponents, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, they played Texas rather early in the season. Really excited for that final game of the year this year for Texas A&M and Texas going up against each other. That's going to be a lot of fun, especially, I don't know how much the football players care about it, but I know the fans.
Oh, yeah.
With the Jim Schlossnagle whole situation, haven't played in forever.
Built up hate. That's going to be, that's going to be a lot.
It's going to be great. The Ole Miss Rebels, their first number 11. They won a program record 11 games in 2023. The next number 9. They finished number 9 in the final AP poll, which was their highest rank since finishing number 8 in 1969. Back when Archie Manning was the quarterback. And then the final number 1, they have had the number 1 incoming transfer portal class per 24/7 Sports. A lot of teams, different sites you go to will give you a different number 1 there. They signed 5 of the top 51 ranked transfers. South Carolina Gamecocks, a team that we just haven't heard much about. Spencer Rattler's not over there anymore, but they'll still be playing a version of Beamer ball. So the first number, 85.1. They averaged 85.1 rush yards per game in 2023. Good for 130th in FBS.
Not solid.
No. Number 6. They finished 500 or worse in SEC play in 6 consecutive seasons. They went 5-3 in 2017. And then the number 4, this is a bright spot for them, especially when you got Nick Harbor on the outside, but they added transfer running back Raheem Sanders, Rocket Sanders from Arkansas. He was the number 4 ranked transfer portal running back per 24/7 Sports. Let's see, we've got 4 more schools to go. Let's go over to Nate. Nate, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What do you got for us on Texas?
Sorry, hello?
Hey, how's it going, Nate?
Good, man. How are you?
We're doing great today here in the doghouse. How are you doing?
Pretty good, man.
Awesome.
Hey, to the topic you guys were talking about earlier about who's going to perform better in the SEC.
Yeah, Texas, Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's got to be Texas. I mean, that's who the SEC wanted. Oklahoma's great. Don't get me wrong, but Texas is huge. And they bring tons of money, tons of interest, and yeah, I think Sark is way ahead of Brent Venables. And he was a pro head coach for the Raiders. He was the youngest head coach in the NFL for a minute. Anyway, and you know where he went to college?
Who are we talking about right here? Sark?
Yeah, sorry, man. I'm all over the place.
Oh, you're good. Sark was he was the OC for the Falcons.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of Lane Kiffin when he was
Kiffin,
the
yeah,
head coach.
Was it Kiffin?
Yeah, it was Kiffin.
You're right.
Yeah. But where did Sark go to school? Honestly, I don't know. I'm gonna say Washington just cause. Where did he go to school?
BYU, man.
Oh, BYU, and Nate, he's a big BYU guy. What's your outlook for BYU in year 2, I believe, in the Big 12?
Oh, dude, I'll be ecstatic if they go 7-5. Ecstatic, They're just the depth is too much for them right now. They've got to acclimate. I mean, they stayed in games last year, in a lot of games, but they didn't end up winning them because they didn't have the depth to compete all game,
Yep.
So
that's a great point there. And so you think in 10 years here, we're having the same conversation, 2034, not 2044.
Yeah, that's calm down.
I'm trying to fast forward. It's way too much. You think Texas is outdoing Oklahoma by a large margin, or do you think it might be a little bit closer? And the reason that I even, kind of ask that question is because when you look at it, Oklahoma having 14 Big 12 championships compared to the 4 for Texas, it's an interesting take. I think we all agree that Texas right now is built better for the SEC, but can Oklahoma catch up?
Well, sure. But they're going to have to probably call Barry Switzer. I don't know. Yes, obviously they'll compete. They're on par with like Tennessee, I would have to say, right?
Yeah.
Or Kentucky. Whether they're recently Kentucky, or they're really good but not great, So, and they'll always be that. They'll have years where they put it together. I mean, it's inevitable. It's Oklahoma, right? They've won in every conference they've ever been in. Big 8 on up. So they'll win, but I think Texas is gonna. I think Texas is just gonna be a monster. I do. I think they're gonna beat Alabama and Georgia and sometimes Florida, right?
Yeah. Hey, there's definitely that chance, and cannot wait for year one here with the additions of Texas and Oklahoma. We'll see if Jackson Arnold can be that guy for the Sooners this year. Hey, Nate, thanks so much for the call, my man.
Yeah, man. Have a good night.
Hey, you too, and we'll see you August 25th, PCB Hobby for the live draft, my man. Take care, bro.
All right, bye.
Yeah, and again, big shout out to PCB Hobby for allowing us to host the live fantasy football draft over there. Domino's Pizza is going to be taking care of us, so we'll have pizza. We'll have pizza there. I'll bring a few Buffalo Rock products with us, but you can bring your own beverages. I'm going to have a cooler full of ice, and then we have a fridge back there. You can put some drinks in. I'll probably have a cooler that you could put drinks in. It's going to be a great time. Coach Brian Haddad's actually going to go through some of the cards and have some like kind of ready just to be purchased of some of the players that you're picking and whatnot. So it's going to be great. I've found a way to get Tyler involved in the league, so he's going to vote for, or I think you'll draft for my Coach James Hale league, and you'll be kind of like the you'll be. We'll manage a team together, but it'll be you managing the team. So, and if anyone, look, we still have room on the waiting list. I'll be reaching out to all the teams as we get closer. Don't expect any email invites or anything like that, because I'm not going to send you an email invite and then you not show up to the draft, and then I just have to remove you and do all of that stuff. So I won't be sending out invites until after the draft. But it's going to be live August 25th, 6:30. Even if you're not a part of the league and you just want to see how it goes down, you want to meet some of us, you want to meet some other listeners of the station, feel free. August 25th, PCB Hobby, 6:30 for the live ESPN Northwest Florida draft. All right, we left off with Texas. Is that where we're at?
No, we're on Tennessee.
Oh, we're on Tennessee. All right, well, looks like I might have to refresh this whole page and scroll on down to it. For some reason, it paused. But what do you think about Jackson Arnold? Last year, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Obviously, he wasn't the main quarterback, just kind of filling in for Dylan Gabriel through portions of the season. Do you think Jackson Arnold is a quarterback that can get it done?
So it's funny you bring him up. I was listening to Danny and Dusty in the morning a couple of weeks back, and that's when I text you about the Avery Johnson thing. Like, oh yeah, they're finally catching up to the information we've been telling y'all about, how Will Howard got pushed out in favor of Avery Johnson. So from what they're saying, though, this is a similar situation over in Oklahoma.
Oh.
Where they thought this highly of Jackson Arnold, that they encouraged Dylan Gabriel to go out and find a new home, which is impressive for what Dylan Gabriel has done in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being honest, he's been much more productive than Will Howard. So it's a little bit different situation, the fact that like Dylan Gabriel's kind of proven he can sling it around more so than Howard has. But it may be a similar situation which they believe in this younger talent over the guy who's been there a while. So if that's the case and they really believe that, then new OC may change that around. But if that's the way if that's the buzz coming out of Oklahoma it could be a fun offense to watch this year.
Wow, man. 2 situations like that. Obviously not Big 12 anymore, but the Kansas State in the Big 12 pushing their quarterback out to the Big 10, going to a much more bigger
arguably the 2 biggest teams in the Big 10 right now have secondary quarterbacks for quarterbacks who were essentially pushed out. Which is crazy to think about, but if it's true, it's kind of hilarious in a little bit way. But it's
wow, man. So now I've got my eye even more kind of set on Oklahoma, watching them. So that's, man.
Can we call like if it's Ohio State, Oregon, and the Big Ten Championship, is that like the Big 12 quarterback reject bowl? Is that what?
There you go.
I mean, but
oh man! All right, left off with Tennessee. That's another fun fact right there, Tyler. As always, here on Tangent Tuesday with Tyler Bishop. Tennessee Volunteers. 204.8. They led the SEC in rushing with 204.8 yards per game for the first time since 1999 with running backs Jamal Lewis and Travis Henry.
Wow.
Travis Henry. So that's very
blast
impressive.
From the past names right there. Like, you said those names like, oh my goodness. Like that.
Yeah.
Golly.
Take me back. 20. Their record of 20-6 over the last 2 seasons is tied for the most wins in a 2-year span since 2003 and 2004. Does Heupel keep them rolling this year?
I've got him at a solid record,
Probably find out next week on the Afternoon Underdogs. 8.5, 93 passing touchdowns versus 11 interceptions under Heupel. That TD to interception ratio of 8.5 is the best in FBS since 2021. And that's with quarterbacks of Hendon Hooker. That's Joe Milton. Maybe one more added into there. No,
Hendon Hooker, I think, was
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. And then Milton started Heupel's first year.
Right.
And then Hendon Hooker came in.
Took over. Yeah. Man. And now it's going to be Nico, I am leaving after this season.
Not if the NIL rumors are true, because what they're giving him is crazy.
Yeah, Allegedly. Texas A&M and the Aggies, 0.708. They went 30-14 with that 708 winning percentage from 18 to 21 when new head coach Mike Elko was their DC. I've heard a lot of great things about how he kind of just fits the vibe there and knows what's going on at Texas A&M.
If you fit the vibe at Texas A&M?
For Texas A&M, I would imagine so, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Didn't work out with Jimbo, and he did not.
Well, it worked out for his bank account real quickly.
Real good. 10. They lost 10 straight road games dating back to 2021, the longest streak in program history and the second longest active streak in FBS. And then the number 0, they are 0-4 in one-score games in 2023. All of those were versus AP-ranked opponents and also tied for the most one-score losses without a win in FBS. Only 2 teams left to go here. Texas, the number 12, coming off their most wins, 12, and their first Big 12 title since I graduated high school in 2009.
Colt McCoy.
Yeah, Colt McCoy. And who was the quarterback? Man, how am I forgetting this? Garrison? Something. Garrett Gilbert.
Garrett Gilbert came in the national championship. He was like a true freshman that year, and he ended up
double G. And it was Marcel Darius who took Colt McCoy down. I was like, dang, like whenever it first happened, I was like, man, that stinks. Like you want to win this first national championship without any type of asterisk on it. And then afterwards, like, no, I don't care.
Nope,
like,
give it to me. I don't care how it goes.
Injure both the quarterbacks, baby. The number 11 had 11 players selected in the 2024 NFL draft, which is the second most of any school. Most for Texas since 1984.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of surprising there. 10, 2 losses in 2023. We're at neutral sites by 10 points combined, 4 points versus Oklahoma, and then 6 points versus Washington, which was in the college football playoff. And then Vandy, $1 billion. The amount of dollars it would take to turn this program around. No, 22. They added program record 22 incoming transfer portal players, added 19 transfers combined from 2020 to 2023.
All right.
What's wrong with those guys? 10. They finished below 500 in 10 consecutive seasons, third longest active streak in FBS. What was it, 2017 when they started out 4-0 and then started carrying around sides, we want Bama.
Man, that means James Franklin's been gone for been at Penn State for 10 years. God,
that's insane to think about.
Because he went 9-3 2 years in a row or whatever it was. That's how he got the Penn State job. But
and then finally, 0 winless in SEC play in 3 of the last 4 years. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. More SEC football when we get back.
For 7 years, ESPN Northwest Florida has been your destination on the Panhandle for the Atlanta Braves.
He just blew the doors off that thing.
But our listeners are the real MVP.
Another dominating performance.
So this year, we're giving away more tickets to Truist Park than ever before. Keep listening to win family 4-packs to experience the Atlanta Braves. From ESPN Northwest Florida, PCB Hobby, Pepsi, Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas, and Home 2 Suites.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida with your Tuesday's weather. Tonight there will be a gentle breeze out of the west-northwest, clear skies, and 81. Sunshine tomorrow morning, about the same at 91, and wind out of the northwest at 10 miles per hour. In the afternoon and evening, sunny and a moderate breeze right around 14 miles per hour with a high of 95. About the same at 92 Thursday, and we'll have sunshine. This forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for listening to ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hello, this is Rick Vossen with RV of Panama City, your local Stormore portable building dealer, located at 2241 East Baldwin Road. Shopping for a garage, portable building, cabin? We build them anywhere from 8 to 16 foot wide, 10 feet to 60 feet long. We can do insulation, electricity, transom dormers, thermal windows. Come, let's customize a building together. Rick Vossen, Stormore Portable Building Dealer, Panama City.
Mid-South Lumber, where they treat you like family. Locally owned and serving the residents of Bay County for over 45 years. See Mid-South Lumber for all of your DIY projects, including windows, doors, siding, lumber, and millwork. Are you building a new home? Bring your contractor in to Mid-South Lumber and meet with a member of their sales team to discuss your framing, siding, windows, and doors. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City. 717 West 11th Street.
The mission?
Your mission, should you decide to accept it.
Save the Panhandle from boring cookie-cutter radio. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
The state will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
We're back in the doghouse. You're riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida, 104.3 in Panama City, 101.9 in Port St. Joe. Taking your calls and your texts at 850-215-6290. Make sure that you're tuned in to the Inside Drive tomorrow at 12:40 when you hear the cue to call. Be caller number 10 at 850-215-6290 and give us the phrase that pays. Chop on. We'll see if I can remember how to run the board, as Liam's ran it for about the last 7 days consecutively, and he's heading back to school tomorrow, so I'll be back in the booth. The Braves' week of winning on ESPN Northwest Florida, sponsored by PCB Hobby, Fairfield, Hampton Inn on Thomas Drive, and Home 2 Suites. Again, don't forget, the Braves are right here after the Afternoon Underdogs. Coverage starting at 6, first pitch 6:20, taking on those Milwaukee Brewers. All right. This is going to take us the rest of today's show and into next Tuesday, no doubt about it. Let's start with Arkansas. What did you have the Razorbacks going in 2024?
Got them probably a Pittman firing 4-8.
All right, so that's actually better than me. I've got them going at 3-9. Their wins against Arkansas, Pine Bluff, UAB, which I was skeptical of giving them that win as well. Bobby Petrino could change things. It could be, I don't think the exact opposite. How I had them going 8-4 last year, they went 4-8. Well, this year, I don't think they're going 9-3, but maybe they could get bowl eligible if that offense moves in the right direction.
I got to beat Mississippi State. That's probably where we differ.
That is,
it's on the roads.
Struggle with it.
But it's hard for me to put a ton of faith into Mississippi State either this year. So it was kind of like a coin flip there.
There's no doubt about that. All right, moving on to Auburn. What'd you have the Tigers of Auburn going?
Got them 9-3.
9-3. I almost went that direct number. I got them at 8-4 though. Wins against Alabama A&M, California, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, ULM, and Texas A&M late in the season.
Yeah, no, I've got him. I mean, I've got him beating Kentucky as well. So I guess that's where we differ.
Yeah.
But I think playing at Georgia is going to be a tough for him. I think at Alabama is going to be a tough for him. And I've got him losing at Missouri. It looks like you do as well. It is coming off a bye week, but.
And Kentucky. You got him beating Kentucky?
I got him beating Kentucky.
Yeah. It is in Kentucky.
I mean, I think Missouri may be able to play a brand of football where they can shorten that game at home, and it may be an ugly win, but I think they end up pulling that one out.
Yeah. Auburn's an intriguing team this year, man. If they win, I think if they go 8-4, they're going to retain most of those top 10 recruits that they have over there, or the top 10 recruits in the state of Alabama, and I think that it helps their recruiting overall.
Yeah, I think you have 7-5 or 6-6 last year, and then if you can go up to a 8-4 or 9-3, show some nice progress, and then going into next year, you've got a little more momentum. Now you get Georgia and Bama back at the house. You have a chance for a fun season in 2025.
I was spot on with Auburn last year. Had them going 6-6, and they went 6-6. All right, let's go to the Florida Gators. This one's a tough one. I mean, I think that their win total is sitting at 4.5. Not a lot of hope there for them. I gave them a lot of hope, though. I've got the Florida Gators going 7-5 in 2024.
I mean, if you're a Florida fan, do you want you to be right? Do you want to hold on to Napier for another year? Like, I don't know.
I'm not a Florida fan.
I mean, I'm not sure how they feel right now. I've got them going to Napier firing 4-8.
Whoa. See, and I struggle with the first one because when we were doing Miami's predictions, I had Florida winning week 1 of the season.
That's fair.
And the more that I think about it, the more that I'm like, if I'm betting on that game, no, give me Miami. Give me Cam Ward. I think maybe some of the strategery, if you will, from Coach Cristobal has played a factor. But again, I had Miami going 11-1, and that being their lone loss of the season.
Yeah, see, that's a game I wouldn't bet on with your money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like I don't love.
Thank you.
I don't love Napier. I don't love Cristobal. I don't love anything about either of those teams and the foundation, quote unquote, they're built on. And so I would avoid that game altogether as a gambler for sure.
So yeah, I've got Florida going 7-5, winning against Miami, Samford, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, UCF. So off to a great start, and then the trouble hits, losing at Tennessee, finally avenging a loss against Kentucky, winning. They got them there at the Swamp, losing at the cocktail party, losing at Texas, a win late in the season against LSU, which you brought up a great point. That could be kind of the bump that they get after firing Napier, and then losing to Ole Miss and Florida State.
Yeah, I've got them beating Samford, A&M State, and UCF, and a nice little 4-game win streak after losing that opening game. So you start to get a little hyped, and then proceed to lose 7 in a row.
All right. Last year, I had Florida going 5-7, and they went 6-6. So I was a little. Yeah, no. I had them going 6-6, and they went 5-7 last year. All right.
So Napier gets fired midseason?
Not midseason.
Could be earlier.
I don't think so. I mean, because that middle stretch of their beginning the first half of their schedule sets up where they could be 4-1, 5-0. And then they'd have some hope, but then once they start reeling off some of those losses towards the end of the year, I think he could be gone by November 16th, that LSU game.
Let's say that my record prediction's right. They go 7-5. Still a chance Napier gets fired at the end of the season?
A chance, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, he would have to lose ugly probably to Florida, or to Florida State, Georgia, Tennessee. Like, he would have to look bad in some of those games that they don't want to lose, like Tennessee, like the rivalries we were talking about at the beginning of the show. If you lose those by combine 50 points, your fan base may not. But I mean, if those are decent enough games, and you go over 500 with this schedule that everybody's talking about as the hardest in the country, I think you have to give them a chance.
All right, we'll skip over Georgia since we skipped over Bama.
That's fair.
Let's go Kentucky here. What do you have the Wildcats of Kentucky? I was spot on with them last year, 7-5. Had them going, and they went 7-5.
I had them at 7-5 last year. They went 7-5, and I got them going 7-5 again. The Mark's too special, baby.
Same, 7-5. Let's see here. So I've got them losing. Let's do their losses here. I've got them losing to Georgia, Ole Miss, Florida. I think we differ there, right? Yep. Tennessee, Texas.
See, you got them losing to Florida. I've got them losing to Auburn. So that's where we flip-flop.
There we go. LSU, what do you have the Bayou Bengals going? Last year, I had them going 10-2. They finished up 9-3. Great season from Jaden Daniels. What do you have them going this year?
Got to replace 3 first-round picks on that offense. That defense was atrocious last year, but I still got them going 9-3. I mean, they dropped kind of some of their tougher. I mean, at A&M, maybe the shocker, quote-unquote, loss, because and I got them beating Oklahoma. So those two may be kind of controversial picks for some people. But those could go either way, but I think 9-3 is a nice spot for them.
I've got them at 8-4. Losses to Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, and again Florida. There, I think that some of the issues that Texas and Oklahoma are going to run into, and Oklahoma ran into it last year in the Big 12, as we were talking about earlier, but is the fact that you're going to be worn down. Like it's going to be different for you this year.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit more deeper than you're used to for sure. You're not playing Iowa State or Baylor and then I'm not saying like those aren't quality programs at times, but overall, like the SEC, more NFL players come to the SEC, more higher ranked recruits go to the SEC. It's just a tougher grind.
It's like they should have a quote or something like where it means more, means more or something.
Something like that. That'd be catchy. You should market that.
Yeah, right. USC too to open up the season. That should be a good one.
They play both those schools from LA.
Yeah, they got both the schools from LA.
They're going for the city title this year.
Deshaun Foster should have been like, guys, just look at LSU's schedule and you'll know both of the schools are from Los Angeles, USC and UCLA. How about the Rebels of Ole Miss? Last year I had them going 11-1. They actually went 10-2. This year I have them pegged at 11-1 again.
I've got them at 11-1 too. Their schedule sets up fairly nice. You get Oklahoma and Georgia at the house. I mean, going to LSU is never an easy thing going into Death Valley, but
Ole Miss wants to wait. No, it's LSU that wants to avenge that loss.
Yeah, that was a crazy game last year. It was one of those like no defense was being played at all. It's like watching NCAA 25 right now. But I'm assuming lone loss to Georgia.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yep, that is the correct answer.
Man, that'd be impressive for Lane, though. That'd be, 23 wins in 2 years? Because I think they won the bowl game, so that put them at... they lost 2 games, so that was 11-2. And then, so 22 wins in 2 years, not including a bowl game or a potential playoff berth. That would be a nice 2-year run for Lane.
And apparently, they're deeper, like not just deeper, but with the guys that they got deeper with, they're bigger, faster, stronger, more, more on par with the Georgia and Alabama.
And 11-1, Ole Miss is in the playoff.
Guaranteed. I do have them in there.
Guaranteed. At
I do have them. Yeah. And honestly, the schedule compared to some of the other SEC teams really
is manageable.
Yes, it really is. Let's go to Mississippi State. I got the Bulldogs ringing that bell at 5-7. Last year, I had them at 5-7. They went 5-7. So let's get a little repeat. What do you got the Dogs at?
Had them at 4-8 last year. Got them at 4-8 again this year. Going winless in the SEC. Just winning some of those out-of-state matchups. Or out-of-conference matchups.
Is there anything surprising to you on Mississippi State's schedule? For me, it's there's nothing surprising. They just win all of their non-conference games, which Eastern Kentucky, Arizona State, Toledo, and UMass.
Who do you have them beaten in conference then? Arkansas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of those games go either way. Even honestly, the Texas A&M game, I mean, there's a lot of turnover there in Aggie land. They've got more raw talent. But, I mean, it's a couple of those games go either. I mean, even honestly, the Florida game could go either way for them.
It really could.
In Starkville, if Florida falters early and they already kind of start bailing ship on Napier early, which that would probably be early in the season for that, but not completely undoable.
Yeah, if Mertz, if Mertz and the Gators are lagging, then maybe they have to bring in Lagway to stop to keep the lag away. Let's go to the Tigers of Missouri. Last year, I had them going 6-6. They actually went 10-2. This year, a pretty favorable schedule. I've got the Tigers going 10-2 this year.
I've got them 10-2 as well. I mean, that Auburn game could go either way. A&M game could go either way. But, I mean, their schedule, again, sets up pretty manageable. The game at Alabama is going to be tough. And then playing Oklahoma, that's going to be probably a fairly tough game. Those are the two I've got them dropping. But outside of that...
You got them losing to Oklahoma and Bama.
Oklahoma and Bama.
I got them losing to A&M and Bama.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right. I mean, there's... South Carolina, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, that's an easy relatively easy 4 wins there. So, I mean, they've got a nice schedule to go 9-3 at minimum, I think.
Oklahoma, I don't have my Big 12 standings from 2023 in front of me. So Tyler's got his, so he could tell you what he did what'd you do with Oklahoma last year?
Oklahoma last year had them at 10-2, it looks like.
All right. And that's what they ended up going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so good stuff there. What do you have them going in their inaugural year or inaugural season in the SEC?
I've got them going 8-4 with probably one surprise win. That for most
8-4.
8-4 with a surprise win.
The surprise win is
Bama.
righty then. I like that. And that's going to be late in the season, too. And it is in Norman.
Bama's got at LSU, Mercer, at Oklahoma, Auburn in a 4-game stretch. Like, that's two tough environments, and then the Iron Bowl. I could see, and I don't know what to expect from the board.
Oklahoma,
so either that or you're coming off a big game, going into another big game, and you got a third big game there in the middle. Sometimes and it'll be interesting. If it was Nick Saban, I'd feel more comfortable, but we have a little bit more unknown with DeBoer.
Yeah. And see, I new to the information of Jackson Arnold, like supposedly being the guy and pushing out Dylan Gabriel. So I've got Oklahoma going 5-7.
Ooh.
Tough. I just can't go with Texas and Oklahoma both coming into the SEC and just having
but their schedule sets up fairly well.
It does. I won't disagree with you there. I've got them losing their first game. Tennessee, even though it's at the house.
I think they made their first game, not their first SEC game.
Okay, I've got them beating Temple, Houston, and Tulane.
Yeah.
First SEC game, I got them losing. Then they go to Jordan-Hare. You can't go into Jordan-Hare your first time and get a dub, right? Come on, you got to experience the craziness. Then I've got them losing to Texas, which who knows? Who in the world knows?
Those games get weird.
I've got them beating South Carolina.
Yep.
I've got them losing to Ole Miss.
Yep.
I've got them beating Maine, losing on the road to Missouri, losing to Alabama, and then losing to LSU. Because like I said, late in the season, I just think LSU might be in a better position, especially in Death Valley, and more than likely, I don't know, LSU's final game, they've been playing against Arkansas.
A&M.
That's right. That's right. And that game's been... Has that game been daytime or?
It's been night, because there's that 7 or 8 overtime game that ended midnight or whatever it felt like.
That's right.
And that's what ended up prompting the overtime rule change.
Give me 5-7 for Oklahoma. We'll see how it plays out. South Carolina, a team that I actually used in my road to glory. Made it to the playoff. Missed the playoff the first year. Made it to the playoff the second year. Won the championship. Now I've transferred to Florida State, hopefully doing big things for them. What do you got the Gamecocks of South Carolina? Last year I had them going 6-6. They ended up 5-7.
Last year I had them at 6-6 as well. They went 5-7. This year I got them at 4-8.
I got them at 4-8 as well, man.
Not a good year for Beamer. They're going to Beamer ball all their way to their lone SEC win being Vanderbilt.
Is this it for Beamer?
Nah, I think he's got enough goodwill in that program. I don't think they're going anywhere with Beamer, but they could be worse, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know how much worse, but they could be.
I've got them beating Old Dominion, Akron, Vanderbilt, and Wofford.
Yep.
All right.
Ding, ding, ding.
So there you go. Tennessee. Last year, I had Tennessee going 8-4. They went 8-4. This year, I've got the Volunteers with a very nice record of 9-3.
Last year I had them at 8-4. They went 8-4. This year got them at 9-3. So hey, we see eye to eye on a lot of these.
And we did not do these predictions together, by the way. We've never done our predictions together. Actually, last year we did them together, but we did them live on the air.
So you don't have them losing to Oklahoma. So who? Besides?
I got them losing to Bama.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Yep.
Kentucky.
Ooh. See, I like that pick, but Stoops has not done well with Heupel's offense in 3 years now, and I just don't. And Tennessee is getting more talent.
What's going to change now, right?
Kentucky's not, and I just don't think that Stoops is obviously not going to be able to out-scheme him because he hasn't been able to do it with more talent. Now that Tennessee's recruiting a little better, I don't see that changing.
Yeah, I think that I went with a little bit of a biased pick to some extent here because they've got Jason Patterson over there running back out of Sneads. I think he's going to be getting a lot of carries this year, so I think that they control the clock of this particular game. And I'm still like... I can't be a believer in something that I haven't seen yet in Nico Iamaleava.
That's fair.
We'll move on to Texas here. What do you got Texas going? Again, don't have the Big 12 numbers. In fact, let's go ahead and take a break. You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. Final segment of this Tangent Tuesday coming up next.
Take ESPN Northwest Florida with you everywhere you go.
Anytime, anyplace, anywhere.
The Sports Talk and Live play-by-play doesn't have to end when you get out of the car. The ESPN Northwest Florida app streams your favorite Sports Talk hosts and the biggest games in ultra-high fidelity.
This is of utmost importance in travel.
Take the Sports Talk monster with you anywhere you go. Available for Android and iPhone.
Use it anywhere or any place.
Great design is timeless, and that's why Tracy's Fine Jewelry inside Coin and Bullion Reserves offers a stunning selection of vintage, antique, estate jewelry on sale now at 40% off. Exquisite Victorian rings, Art Deco diamond brooches, Georgian and Art Deco bracelets, earrings, and pendants. These one-of-a-kind pieces add personality to any ensemble, and now at 40% off. Find your timeless treasure at Tracy's Fine Jewelry inside Coin and Bullion Reserves.
Ellis Agency Insurance has been serving Panama City and Bay County for years. They offer a full line of affordable insurance coverage of all types. Many people are attracted to Ellis Agency Insurance because of their friendly, knowledgeable staff. Call independent agent Johnny Ellis for a true comparison of your personal or business insurance. Ellis Agency Insurance at the Old Cullen Insurance location, 1134 Harrison Avenue, across from Dandy Donuts and Deli. Call 763-1627.
The Atlanta Braves are battling back in the division and keeping their sights set on the playoffs as the season heats up.
Bounce up the middle, might get through, and does! Base hit! Braves win! Austin Riley comes through with the winner!
Tonight, Austin Riley and the Braves ramp up for another series against the Milwaukee Brewers, live from Truist Park in Atlanta.
Braves coverage begins following the Afternoon Underdogs at 6. First pitch, 6:20. Your home for the Braves, ESPN, Northwest Florida.
We're live and local. From Camp Helen State Park to the historic Martin Theater.
Definitely time to let our hair down and have some fun.
It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back. It's our final segment of the afternoon. 850-215-6290 is the number to call. Right after this, we'll get you to a brief commercial break, and then it's on to the Atlanta Braves. Cover starts at 6 o'clock. First pitch tonight, 6:20. Bryce Elder on the bump for the Bravos. Hopefully they can catch up on the Phillies. We'll find out what happens in the Phillies and the Dodgers game later this evening. We left off with Texas, right?
Texas, yes, sir.
Newcomer to the SEC. What record do you have for Texas in 2024?
I mean, honestly, they got a pretty decent schedule from the SEC for the new kids on the block.
And they got a very tough, or they've got at least one tough non-conference game on the road, Ann Arbor, Michigan.
But, I mean, I think the SEC did them more favors than they did Oklahoma. I mean, comparing the two. But
would you do that? Like, not saying that they manipulate the schedule, but if you feel like one's more of a trophy and one's more of a, like, would you set them up with a better schedule?
But kind of to your point, do you want Texas coming in and like doing extremely well their first year and be like, oh, see, this was so easy this whole time? You know what I'm saying? Like, but I've got Texas going 11-1, losing the big one to Georgia. That's the week after the Red River rivalry, River shoot. Like, that's a big, like, having to play Oklahoma at a neutral site, then having to play Georgia. And that's a tough I mean, just because of how big that rivalry is. And they lost last year. Like, as bad as people want to think Oklahoma has been, like, they beat them last year. They were 10-2. Like, Oklahoma's not a bad team.
No. The defense struggled down the stretch. That's true. Yeah. But
if you had to pick, well, sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you have Texas 11-1 also, right? No? Okay. Yet, I like that. I was going to ask you who would they lose to besides Georgia, but I guess you're going to tell me.
I'm going to tell you, man. I'm going to tell you, and this changes things a little bit now. I do believe that I had Texas still making the playoff. Yes, I got Texas as the 8 seed in the playoff. Ole Miss as the 7 seed. We'll go over the college football playoff. If we don't get to it this week, we'll get to it next week. I'm sure Thursday, me and Kyle Wright will dive into it. I've got Texas going 10-2, winning at Michigan, losing to Georgia.
Yep.
And then one of the games that I am honestly, when rivalry week comes, I am going to, with the final week of the season, I am looking forward to that Texas. If the Iron Bowl and Texas A&M were on at the same time, I would obviously have 2 TVs going or go to a bar where I got plenty of options, go somewhere where I got plenty of options. My eyes might be glued more to Texas and Texas A&M, depending on how the Iron Bowl is going now. Don't get me wrong. If it's close, if it was like last year, my eyes are going to be solely focused on the Iron Bowl. But I'm looking forward to this game.
You got some expectations, and I like it. I can dig it.
Yeah, dude. I've got Texas falling to Texas A&M close. I think that the 12th man is going to be a big factor. They're going to be loud as the first time that this game has happened in a long time. The effects of the after the baseball season and Jim Schlossnagle, being in the College World Series with the Ags and then just flipping and going to Texas.
Hit the transfer portal.
Yeah, quick, fast, and in a hurry. I've got Texas going 10-2, and that takes us to the Aggies. Last year, I had the Ags. I was a little high on them, man. I had them going 9-3. They paid a lot of money to Jimbo Fisher to go 7-5.
Yeah, I was high on them last year. I went 10-2 with them. I believe that that talent would show itself, and it just did not at all.
So Texas A&M this year, what do you have the Aggies going?
I'm at a fairly respectable first year for Elko, 8-4.
I've got them at I don't even respect myself with this 10-2. And their losses, this is what honestly, you look at the schedule. All right, Notre Dame, that could be a tough one. However, I'll take the teacher over the student. Riley Leonard's going to be the quarterback for Neutrotomy for Notre Dame. Whereas
Bowl over here.
Elko, exactly. So I'm going to take Elko in that game. Then I've got them losing early in the swamp to Florida, but they got McNeese in between that. Bowling Green, Arkansas win. I do have them beating Missouri, which that could be a head scratcher. Then they get the bye week. They're at Mississippi State, win. They got LSU. I'll take Connor Wegman over Garrett Nussmeier.
What the heck you got them losing to then?
They beat South Carolina on the road. Then they get New Mexico State. Boom, win. I've got them losing to the Auburn Tigers.
Okay.
And then beating Texas to wrap up the season.
Man, that'd be an insane 10-2 to lose to Florida and Auburn. It would just be such a. It would be perfectly A&M and SEC football. But I've got them losing to Notre Dame. I've got them losing to Missouri, Auburn, and Texas to close out the year.
Yeah, and I think that's a more sensical take. But again, we'll have to see, man. We got to let these games play out for themselves, and we'll see if Elko goes 10-2 in year one with the Aggies.
Man,
they might let him just coach the rest of the sports.
They're gonna give him a 10-year, $78 million guaranteed contract to no matter what.
With a $150 million buyout.
Yeah, right? Yeah, they're gonna give him some insane contract that they probably won't regret. Maybe, I don't know.
All right, we'll move on. We didn't do Vanderbilt. All right, so I learned my lesson. Last year, I had Vanderbilt going 4-8. They went 2-10 with wins against Did they even beat Hawaii?
I don't think so.
To start the year out? Oh, man.
If they went 2-10, there's no way they beat Hawaii, I don't think. I mean, it would have been probably UNLV and Alabama and A&M.
Yeah. My goodness. I'm going 2-10 this year, and their wins are Alcorn State and Ball State.
I mean, I could easily see that. You got Del McGee coming over from Georgia over to Georgia State, taking over that job. They got to go play at hostile Turner Field over there in Atlanta for Georgia State's home.
So weird to be playing a football game at Turner Field.
Unless something's changed in the last year. So that was their home stadium when they first started their program was Turner Field.
I believe it still is.
But I've got them beating Georgia State, Alcorn State, and the Ball State as well. 3-9 for the Vandy Commodores. Another winless SEC season and just...
it's Center Park Stadium.
Okay, so they did move in, all right.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, Georgia State's got a little bit of thing they're kind of working with. They beat Tennessee in Neyland a few years back.
Maybe they just renamed
Turner Field.
Yeah, because I believe that the address for Turner Field back in the day, I mean, it's been a while since I've been to a game there, 2000 and...
So maybe it is Turner Field just renamed?
Yeah.
Okay.
755 Hank Aaron Drive, Southeast
That sounds
Atlanta,
about...
Georgia.
sounds like... yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah.
Okay, so it is
Turner Field.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Central Park. It looks a little updated too, man. Kind of looks
Georgia
good.
State pouring all that football money into it.
There you go. Hey, Bray, you know how baseball teams wear retro jerseys and stuff? They should go play in their retro stadium every now and again.
If they exist.
Yeah, if they exist.
Should Georgia State do a Braves themed uniform?
How sick would that be, bro?
That would be like the pinstripe or something like that, and like red and blue, because they already use blue as their main color. You could throw a little, I think they could do something really fun with that. Do like an Atlanta themed night.
If I was Caveman Rick, I would say, something like maybe an Indian killing a panther or something like that. But
they hoist it over his head.
So I'm not going to say that. All right. Well, we've got 2 schools left and we've got 7 minutes to do it. So let's start with Bama because this one I think is I think that the schedule is favorable. Last year, I had Bama going 12-0. They were 11-1 with that early loss to Texas, and then bounced back and ended up beating Georgia in the SEC championship. I've got it adverse this year. I do have them going undefeated. I don't know how strongly I believe in that, but just the way that the schedule sets itself up, I mean, it could be a possibility. We'll we'll see how that game goes against Luke Fickell and the Badgers on September 14th, and I'll be able to give you a better where's my wherewithal on the Tide. I've got them going 12-0, but that's, again, I'm not very confident in that. What do you have them going?
I got them going 10-2.
10-2?
Yeah, if
very respectable.
If Nick Saban was coaching, I would probably have them beating Georgia, and I'd probably have them at 12-0.
Okay. But so who's the losses to?
Georgia and Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, that's right.
On the road, like I said, the second to last week of the season. I think they could. I think they could get snuck up on. I mean, they could easily go 11-1, 12-0, and I wouldn't be super surprised. But I think with Nick Saban being gone, I'm not going to say Bama's lost all credibility, but it's one of those people said for years eventually Nick Saban's going to fall off, and he never did. Well, now you kind of assume there's going to be at least some drop off. You don't go from the GOAT to somebody else,
right? Without
probably at least a little bit of a drop off, which 10-2 for most teams is the best season in program history, or the best one in the last decade. So it's not like it's anything to.
Right, 100%. And that's the thing is, all right, Auburn is more of a question mark. And it was not a question mark last year. However, we were 31 yards away from it being a exclamation point for Auburn. I think on the road against LSU. Okay, yes. So I don't believe that much in Garrett Nussmeier. He's got a lot to prove.
It's still Death Valley at night.
It's still Death Valley at night. And guess what? We don't have enough on Garrett Nussmeier to just totally discredit him. Oklahoma, same exact thing. I mean, that's going to be a huge SEC game for Oklahoma. Missouri's talented. I think the only favorable thing, or not the only, but one of the favorable things there for Bama is the fact that it is in Tuscaloosa at Tennessee. Tennessee loves to beat Bama.
I mean, that's not a bad stretch. I mean, at Tennessee, Missouri at the house, at LSU, Mercer, and then at Oklahoma and Auburn, that's 5 or 6 pretty, could end up being some very challenging games down the stretch for Alabama. It's going to be
there's no doubt.
Probably a lot of fun as a fan.
If Tennessee beats Alabama, do they tear the goalpost down again?
Nah, you can't do it. You can't do it twice, right?
I don't think they should. I didn't think they should have done it in the first place.
I kind of get it the first time, 17 years, and Saban. Now it's DeBoer, and I don't even have disrespect to DeBoer, but DeBoer hasn't been there beating your butts.
Don't even rush the field.
You should act like you've been there kind of now.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. You got teams, you got kids storming courts and stuff like that in basketball games that shouldn't be happening. If there's a reason for them to have shenanigans, they'll do it. They'll find a way.
Shenaniganers find a way, right?
Shenanigans.
Especially when you're that thirsty for big moments like that, some fan bases, they'll find a reason.
No, I mean, I don't doubt it. For sure. I mean, and it's still beating Bama, and you're still Tennessee, still a big weekend, but they should not. I'm not saying they won't, but they shouldn't.
There you go. All right, Georgia, my lone loss again. Bama there. Outside of that, I've got them going 11-1. Well, and it's only because it's in Tuscaloosa. What say you?
All right, I got them at 12-0. I think they win convincingly versus Clemson early on. And then the rest of the schedule sets up decently as far as bye week before Bama. Although Bama and Auburn back-to-back could get a little weird.
Right.
But Auburn just has not played Georgia nearly as well in the state of Georgia versus in Jordan-Hare.
Yeah, Jordan-Hare was kind of wild for it was a little dicey early.
But they haven't scored more than 10 points against Georgia since 2008 in the state of Georgia, something like that. Something crazy. So, and then, getting Mississippi State before on the road to Texas as opposed to Texas having to play the Red River Shootout. And then even Florida, which is a big rivalry, but then playing what is probably a lesser Florida team before we go on the road at Ole Miss. But Georgia plays 5 of the top 15 teams in the coaches' preseason poll, 4 of them away from Athens. It's a fairly brutal schedule, which makes up in a lot of people's eyes for the quote unquote weak schedule last year. But
how accurate is that poll? We've already heard from our boy Wildcard Delight, and it's not very accurate.
Well, Hey, that's just for the ACC schools. The SEC schools, it's good. The Big Ten schools, it's good.
And that's the coaches poll, which again, all of this though, until we get really until the final week of the season,
it's hard to gauge now with all the transfer portal stuff. Now everybody's switching.
So it is a tough job. So who do you have playing in the SEC championship?
I would think it'd end up being probably be Georgia, Texas. I don't know, because I've got Ole Miss and Texas at 11-1, both losses to Georgia. They don't play each other. I don't know how that tiebreaker would. I went UT, just assuming just because I did have Bama with that second loss. But I I don't know how the tiebreakers work, if I'm being honest.
I was going to ask, do you think, are they going to use head-to-head, or are they going to use some other, metric?
They'll use head-to-head,
typically you would think
Texas and Ole Miss don't play.
That doesn't, work out. So.
Yeah, so I don't know in this scenario, that they both lose to Georgia, if it's the differential in that game, if it's common opponents as a whole, point differential. I don't know what the tiebreakers are, if I'm being honest with you right now. So I just guess Texas as
conference record.
Conference record would be the same.
Yeah, it'd be the same. That's why I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, you might go to point differential there, and if we had more time in the show, I would absolutely go look that up. But that'll be something that we converse about next Tuesday, because it's going to get interesting. I've got Bama and Georgia, and then I have Georgia repaying Bama for the loss, not just last year, but at Tuscaloosa this year. So Georgia would be your SEC champion.
And probably an likely number 1 seed then, right?
Yeah. Real quick, while we have a little bit of time, and we'll get into yours next week. So I would have Georgia as the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff. Oregon would be the number 2 seed. North Carolina would be the number 3 seed, winning the ACC game against Miami. Okay. They would be the number 3 seed at 12-1, sending Mac Brown out with a bang. UCF would be the 4 seed at 11-2, winning the Big 12 over Oklahoma State. Now, listen, it's because they beat Oklahoma State.
Could you imagine, the state of Florida, if UCF makes the playoff before Florida, but over Florida State and Florida in the same year?
That would be
awesome. And then Miami, I don't know if Miami makes it as an at-large, but...
real quick, Bama would be 5 seed, 6 seed Ohio State, 7 Ole Miss, Texas 8, Oklahoma State 9, Miami 10, Missouri 11, and then the G5 champ at 12. Coach James Hill Show is going to be live at 7. The Inside Drive live at 11. We're back tomorrow at 4, and Braves and Brewers coming up next. Just remember, Jesus loves you, so do I.
ESPN Northwest Florida is your home for college football and the Auburn Tigers.
He dives! He's in! Touchdown, Auburn!
We heard you, Tiger